Hey, how's it going, guys? So today I'm going to be reviewing the Finfine SC1. It is a audio interface by Finfine. So opening it up, we have again awesome directions by Finfine. I will give them that as far as it goes for quality. Like it has both directions on the front, or the back and the front. So, and it's all in English, so it's not like, you get directional front and back, and it's like multiple languages, and really they only give you like one little snippet. No, they really do cover everything you really need to get this thing up and running. As far as what you get, what it comes with, it's pretty simple. You have a USB-C cable, so USB-A to USB-C. Oh, and it has an adapter for USB-C to USB-C, so that's neat. So theoretically, I'd have to double check and test it, but you could use it with your phone, I think. Since it has a USB-C to USB-C port. I'll have to try that sometime. It's not going to be in this video, but, that would be something neat to give you a higher quality one. The audio interface is made of all plastic, so it's not like what I'm using right now is a Focusrite 4i4, where it has a metal housing. So it does have a metal plastic. It feels solid enough. I mean, I feel like I may be able to break it, but I don't know. So on the front, you got a TRS to XLR, 48 volts of phantom power. You have a mic to instrument switch. You have your instrument, which has a line level, your headphone volume, and then a direct monitoring button. On the top, you have your gain for your microphone. You have your gain for your instrument, and you have the output for your speakers. The speaker outputs are right here. You have left and right. And then it has USB-C port and then a locking. So pretty simple. Not a whole lot to it. So I should kind of back up. What is an audio interface now that people are maybe watching this? So an audio interface basically turns your analog signal from your microphone to a digital signal. What that pretty much means is that it takes your electrical signal, turns into ones and zeros by using a sample rate and a bit depth, and then turning it into a signal that you can then listen to on your computer. This particular one has a sample rate of 44 kilohertz to 48 kilohertz, which is usually what's standard for video, as well as has a bit depth of 16-bit. Standard bit depth for studio quality is going to be 48-bit. So like my Focusrite 4i4 is 48-bit. This are 24-bit. This is going to be 16-bit. So a little not the better bit depth. The bit depth matters a little bit because it lowers the noise floor. So there's like unwanted staticky noise that comes in, both from what's called the preamps in it, as well as just the actual bit depth of recording it. So for example, I'll show you what a noise floor is when I'm turning up my Focusrite volume. So I have a DBX286S, which is an external preamp with compression into it. So I actually have my Focusrite at zero gain turned up. But as I start turning it up, you'll start hearing noise coming in, and that's coming from the preamps and then the noise. So as you could hear, that's what the noise sounds like. So let's go ahead and plug this thing in and see how it sounds. I'll be using my same external gear. It's going to be for the first initial type of test, we're going to be doing my SC Electronics Dynacaster DCM8 with the Mugabe cable running into my DBX286S, and then going into the Finfine SC1. So we'll see, hopefully, what that sounds like. Again, let's take one last look. This is the audio interface. All right. Okay, so here is what it sounds like. Maybe you heard a difference, maybe you don't. I can hear a slight amount of noise, and that's most likely from two things, from what's called the preamps in it, as well as the bit depth So the preamps are the electronics or microchips in it that use for the gain, although I'm not really using any preamp, like any noise. I'm only using the DBX286S, so it most likely might be the bit depth or just maybe the electronics in it. I'm not 100% sure, but the only difference being is I'm literally only using this to basically transfer the data into the computer. So here's what it sounds like. Is it any different? Maybe you don't hear anything. Like I said, I hear like a little bit slight amount of noise, but that's about it. The quality, if you're going into super technical, is going to be a little less detailed. So the bit depth, as well as the sample rate, the big things that those govern is going to be the noise floor, as well as what's called the dynamic range. And what the dynamic range is all the detail from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, which is what this picks up. But it also, those really high frequencies and those really low frequencies, it doesn't really capture them as well as detailed the lower the bit depth is. So this one will not capture better quality things in the high and low end as a one with a higher sample rate. So let's go ahead and test it with the Finfine microphone and see how that sounds. So it's going to be a USB combo microphone. I'll be using a Mugabe cable first for it, and then I'll show you guys a more affordable option, as well as some alternatives, and then also throw a condenser microphone in on this to see if there's any additional noise with a condenser microphone. So let's go ahead and switch to the Finfine. All right, so here is the Finfine K688 microphone. So here's a better representation of what you can hear with the noise floor. So I have the gain turned up about 95%. Let me turn it up to 100%. And you can see I have to talk pretty quiet, that this is what it sounds like. So this is pretty driven microphone, like you need a lot of gain for it, so you have to max this thing out pretty much. But you can hear how there's some unwanted noise kind of inserting in there. You can use plugins or a noise gate to kind of circumvent some of the noise, but the preamps, that's the limitations with some of these things. So this is a pretty affordable microphone at like $55. So it's really good at getting into the game, but yeah, you can definitely hear that noise. So let's turn that back down to there so I can manageable hearing. So usually you want to be as close as 0 if you're like live streaming, for example, with this thing on there. So it's like 70 some bucks. This is 55, so a little over 100 if you're going to do a combo. The XLR cable I'm using is pretty expensive. Mugabe cables are like the best as far as standard goes because they have a lot of shielding, but I'll demonstrate using this. This is a monoprice cable. It is a lot cheaper, but they're lifetime warranty, but they're a good cable if you just want to start out and just get the microphone, this, and then a cheap XLR cable. So let's plug that in and see if we can hear any additional noise on top of what noise was there when I max this thing out. All right, so here it is with the monoprice cable. It has a little additional noise. Like, let me turn it up all the way again so you can really start to hear that interference. It's okay. I mean, if you're streaming, this is perfectly acceptable. Studio, you're getting a little bit into getting a little more difficult to be able to record with, but this sounds like with a more budget-friendly option. So let's go ahead and see how it sounds with a condenser microphone, and then I'll look at as well as a different dynamic microphone to see how it sounds. But with these kind of pairing together and then the thing, it's perfectly acceptable, especially for streaming or you're just really trying to get into audio in general. Like this would be a great option. So let's go ahead and try a condenser though and see how it sounds. All right, so we got one of my favorite condenser microphones here. This is the Baby Blue Bottle by Blue. Really great sounding microphone, but here's how it sounds using the 48 volts of phantom power. I can't really, there's still, the noise is not too bad. We're at about 50% gain. We dialed it back from 100% to 50% because this is a hotter output microphone. So I had the low cut filter engaged. This is it not engaged. And then if I want to do a 20 dB pad, I can with this. I've already reviewed this microphone for the most part a lot, so it doesn't really matter with it. But as we start turning up the gain, we can really start hearing some interference with particularly condensers, especially when you get more up close. So you can see it really kind of depends. And obviously you shouldn't be using that much gain. It should be enough to kind of get it for above, like as close to 0 dB as you can. You don't want to get it crazy up to where it's clipping all the time, which is in the red. So this thing has a convenient light on the audio interface. It has a green, yellow, red. So, you know, green, you're good. Yellow, you're kind of peaking. And then red, you're clipping. So yeah, that's a couple different microphones. Let me review one of my favorite handheld dynamic microphones besides the one that I normally use. And then we'll get to some instrument testing and then and then wrap this video up. Okay, so this is one of my favorite handheld dynamic microphones. This is the SC Electronics V7. It's an awesome sounding microphone, you know, really good if you're like doing podcast interviews or whatever, even just streaming. You get a little mount for it and everything. One of my first reviews. I really love this microphone, and it sounds great on it. I mean, most audio interfaces don't really change the sound. The only thing that the audio interface does is it adds added unwanted noise. Just to give you an illustration right here. Here is what it sounds like at green, and then as I start turning up, so you can see it kind of goes to red. And that's that distortion. That's called clipping, and you don't want that because then it obviously makes your noise distorted and it doesn't sound very good. But I believe there's about 50 dB of gain on this thing, so it probably couldn't drive an SM7B, which is, you know, unfortunate. But usually people that are dropping $400 on a microphone are probably going to drop a little bit on the audio interface as well. This is more for a budget-friendly entry-level audio interface and kind of introduce you to see if you want other gear and to test things out. It's not the best one, but sounding audio interface, not the worst. The preamps aren't the best, but for $55, that's perfectly fine. So let's go ahead and we'll plug my guitar microphone into it, and then we'll kind of see how that sounds. So I'm going to be running my, going to use a Hughes and Kettner with all my pedals, and it's going to be recording using a Shure SM57, and that's what's going to be mic'd up, and it's going to be going into the Finfine SC1 to see how that sounds. So since it really only has one input, I'm not going to be plugging a microphone in with that. It's just solely going to be using that microphone input since it only has one XLR input. So let's go ahead and see what a guitar sounds like on it. All right, so that's what he sounded like with the guitar. So let's go ahead and plug it directly into the audio interface of my guitar. It's going to sound terrible, probably because guitar just doesn't sound good plugged in directly to any audio interface. Same with bass. It's because a lot of the tone actually comes from both the microphone as well as the most of anything is going to be the speaker that's going through. So my Celestion Vintage 30 that my Hughes and Kettner is running through is really gives a lot of the tone for my sound that I go for. So we'll go ahead and plug it directly into it. It's going to sound dry, no reverb or anything, and then just show you how it would sound like if you're just literally going to be note writing or something. And then we'll get to the final thoughts and review of this Finfine SC1. All right, so what do I think about the Finfine SE or SC1? It's decent. It's not bad for $55, especially if you're going to entry level. You can get like a Focusrite Solo, like used 3rd gen for like $40, but that's still used, so you're not really sure. I'm sure if this is defective, like I'll leave a link on Amazon for it. Not that I get paid for it, just I'll just send a link that you can purchase it at. But this thing is decent. The bit rate isn't the best is the one complaint. If you could do 24-bit, that'd be better. But 16 still okay. And then if you could do 96 instead of 480 would be better for the sample rate to widen your dynamic range if you're going to be using an instrument for that. Because it doesn't do as well with like if you're using like the Focusrite, because it has a bigger bit depth and bigger sample rate. So, but if you're using this for streaming, yeah, it'd be very good for that purpose. As well as if you're going to be pairing it with the Finfine K688 would be better. So because this does have a USB-C import, but the gain's a little better on this one, as well as even though they have the same bit rate and bit depth and sample rate, the preamps are a tiny bit better in the audio interface. Plus, you can upgrade it later in the future if you wanted to. So the upside to getting an audio interface, like a lot of people like ask me, like, why you even get one? I could just use a USB-C microphone. Well, the big reason is because if you want to upgrade your equipment to use like this microphone or use my like DBX286S, those are XLR output things, are XLR attachments that you need, and you need an audio interface for that. So if you're curious about like you want to upgrade your audio interface later, but you just want to try out and get some different gear, maybe you like the Behringer makes some affordable external gear and you want to get either like this microphone or that SE Electronics V7, doesn't matter what you want, or you want a condenser like the Blue. Either way, you can use it with this microphone. Or if you just want to, pencil write some stuff with your guitar, you can by plugging it directly in there. It's not the best sounding. You can use like amp simulators and plugins and stuff for that. It can get a little bit complicated. I don't like to use plugins because it does what's called latency, so it'll start getting slower and slower if you're trying to real-time monitor, especially when you got streaming going on in games. You're back in your streaming, it starts getting a little bit intensive on your computer, even the very high-end great ones. So with that being said, the audio interface is good, especially someone that just wants to use it for streaming. Like this is primo for that. You can add gear as go by, and if you want like a better interface in the future, no problem, you can upgrade it. But $55 is a really reasonable price point, especially for somebody that just is curious about audio interfaces and wants to try one out. It's literally plug and play. I didn't even see any drivers being downloaded. It literally just works. So it replaces your sound card on your PC and gives you a better one. The noise won't be as much as if you're trying to like jerry rig something to plug into your like a USB to like the weird cable that plugs into your mic or your guitar. That sounds horrible. I did that one time and it's a disaster. So you might as well just spend 20 or $55 and get one of these if you're going to be trying to plug your guitar into something, because this is way easier and works, and you can hear your guitar in real time with the zero latency monitoring, which is a great feature to have on any audio interface, because that way I can hear myself if I'm clipping or being too loud. So it's a really good tool to have. Some other things is like the build quality. I guess it's since it's made of all plastic housing, I would be a little worried about like carrying it places because it might break, but it's still durable enough to where I'm probably going on a trip here, and I'll probably take this with me to chat with friends and stuff. And like I said before, streaming, it's really good because even though it does have a little bit more noise with probably the preamps, because it's a little bit cheaper, that's okay, because with streaming, you're usually going to have a game playing in the background, maybe music. So people aren't really going to pick up on that small nuances. Only like somebody that's like me who like is starting to really listen to for small errors in like microphone technique or just in gear in general, then we would care. But the average person, they don't care. I mean, it'd be fine for that. So Finfine did send me this to review. But I was giving my honest opinion about it. So is it studio level quality? No. But is it decent to be able to record probably singing, voice especially, and record some guitar, especially like a guitar amp? Yeah, it's perfectly fine for that. In fact, it'd probably be passable even using for some studio quality stuff, especially when you're adding in plugins and altering things and cutting in things and adding things. If you know how to edit music, it'd be fine. Like you could get away with it 100%. Like if you wanted like the ultimate best low noise preamps, I mean, you get like the Rode Procaster 2, but do that thing's like $400 or $500 for the audio interface. That's not including the cables and the microphone. So there's $55, easy all day. I'll leave a link to that, and I'll leave a link to the XLR cable if you're looking for a cheap one. The mono price one, super affordable, lifetime warranty. It does pick up some of the electromagnetic interference, but you know, if you want to spend, like I have, like stupid amounts of money on a Mugabe gold cable, like you can, yeah, but you know, I'd wait and save up, get a better audio interface, get a better microphone, and then you know, worry about your cables kind of last, and like get treatment for your room. These things are pretty you know, standard. They're coming across, there's so many audio interfaces out there. People argue which ones are better. And really, it's what's for you. This particular one is meant for the solo person that's just trying to record their voice or just record an instrument or, you know, chat with people, podcast, gaming, and, you know, maybe some singing. But for the hardcore audio person, you know, they probably want a little bit different one with a higher bit depth and a higher sample rate. So, yeah, that's a review on it. I mean, I would suggest, especially somebody starting out, this is perfect entry level, no learning curve whatsoever. I mean, you literally plug and play. If you're looking to do more stuff, add more inputs and that, you know, obviously this isn't for you, but neither is a Focusrite Solo. So the Finfine SC1, yeah, I'd recommend it all day for those who want to, you know, get in there and just want a single plug and play just to record their voice. Perfectly fine. So, yeah, hopefully the review was helpful. If you have any questions, leave me a comment and I'll be happy to answer you.